What if I told you that crouching was one of the main building blocks of gaming culture? That crouching, of all things, expanded from a random control in a Smurf game to featuring in nearly every one of the most popular games to date. From Minecraft to Skyrim to Splitgate to Dead by Daylight, crouching is essential, whether it serves as an invaluable component of the very gameplay or a nuanced method of communication. Today we will be exploring the shocking significance of the crouch and how it has actually shaped gaming culture from its early integration to the interesting controversies of the present day. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing as it helps out the channel and is completely free. Now, what was the first instance of crouching in a video game? This was actually quite difficult to trace for two main reasons. First, hardly anyone has recorded this information. And second of all, the first crouch depends on what actually constitutes a crouch. For example, does a kneel count as a crouch? Or is a crouch specifically a squat-like motion because the crouch animation in Halo is closer to a kneel than a squat? If we agree that there's crouching in Halo, which there obviously is, we would have to shift our definition to include any lower than standing stance in a video game. But that invites the question, would a duck count as a crouch? Because in some games, the downwards motion is a straight-legged duck, like in Smurf rescuing Gargamel's castle. What's interesting about this game is that it was made in 1982, making it the first instance of a crouch in video game history. Of course, only if you count a duck as a crouch. Though if you were to apply a stricter definition, the first proper crouch in a video game would be in Activision's Keystone Capers, 1983. In the game, you play as a policeman running after a burglar, and to avoid flying obstacles, the character performs a perfect squat. This squat in particular serves only one purpose: to shrink the character's hitbox. In the same year, two other games were released, each having a drastically different use of the simple crouch. Elevator Action, made by Taito, used a kneeling crouch to allow players and enemies to shoot at a lower level, while Mountain King, published by CBS Electronics, made the player kneel to pick up a flame spirit used to beat the game. These are diverse uses of the crouch, but are way off from the norm used today. And in the vast majority of games, the crouch is used mainly for one thing: stealth. This can also be termed as the sneak, and it's prevalent in nearly every adventure game out there. This is because the sneak adds a whole new dimension to gameplay. It allows the player to gamble for a stealthy advantage, with a choice to avoid a problem entirely. Therefore, a new level of complexity is added to the game. Even though in video games crouching is simply integral, in actuality it's not as simple as it looks. It's normally sprinting and jumping that consume stamina in video games. Crouching hardly ever inconveniences the player, but holding a low crouch is the equivalent to an endless squat, and as a fun side quest, I invite any of you watching to try that out. Trust me, it's no joke. Other games go one step further. They introduce crawling or going prone, trading an extreme amount of mobility for the smallest hitbox possible. While we're talking about this, we mustn't forget that in early games, a crouch was literally a downwards motion of a joystick or a D-pad. So in platformers, the crouch can serve as a method of dropping a level, not to mention how in fighting games, the crouch unlocks a world of new combos. An interesting early use of the crouch that is quite rare today is actually the charge jump. These days, charge jumps are normally used with a jump in tandem with an ability. That standard wasn't always the case, and as you might guess, a crouch was used to give an extra boost to a jump, making sense as it utilized the full range of motion of the character's knees, unlike a standing jump. As a mobility mechanic, the crouch is astoundingly dynamic, but its true potential was revealed at the dawn of multiplayer games. See, when you're playing a multiplayer game, communication is key, especially reading the players around you. In real life, we just use our mannerisms and our face to convey our mood and disposition. No such mechanism exists in video games, at least not to the efficiency of human body language. The only options really are your character's movement and their abilities, and when most abilities in video games tend to show aggression, that leaves only your movement. And it turns out the quickest way to show passivity would be to use the crouch. Not only is it much quicker than jumping, but it can be spammed for added effect and puts the player in a weaker position, demonstrating submission instead of aggression. This makes it the main method of requesting a team up in combat games. And I feel sorry for moderators because unlike with the chat log, it's quite challenging catching a team if they're being discreet. Spectating can normally solve this issue, as it gives you a feed coming from the person who killed you. But because crouching is a visual communication method, a kill cam allows the person who killed you to communicate back. Enter teabagging. Teabagging is a method of trolling someone by spamming crouch over their body. This was popularized in Halo due to the fast-paced gameplay and the novel kill cam at the time. Ever since, it's been the industry standard trolling method, used to both taunt the opponent or spark up an in-game rivalry for some epic fun. Teabagging has gained such an influence that in Splitgate there's a whole game mode called Teabag Confirmed, where you must teabag your kills to get the points. Recently, teabagging has caused a controversy within the gaming community, due to an Apex Legends player being disqualified from a tournament because of teabagging. This sparked a debate online where people who opposed teabagging cited its inappropriacy in real life, while defenders accused them of taking a video game too seriously. I personally grew up with teabagging, and really, if I can scythe someone to death in Apex, I honestly don't see a problem with spamming my crouch bind over their dead body. But whatever your views are, I think we can all agree that crouching is absolutely everywhere. And while jumping adds a new direction to the game, and emoting communicates to the people around you, crouching does both. And hopefully next time you're sneaking up on an enemy, or just messing around with your friends, you may have a slight appreciation for the humble crouch.